Hi, everyone. Welcome to Around the Ladder. I'm Erika Steinberg. So, this show is usually about career paths that don't follow the usual script, but today's conversation is a little different. It's less about the paths themselves and more about what we, the three of us here today, encountered as we were making changes. I've been thinking a lot about how many women I know didn't exactly choose to rethink their careers, but they found themselves needing something different. I certainly did myself. A different level of energy, a different pace, a lot of times different boundaries. And often, all of that was happening at the same time as we're going through perimenopause or menopause. So that's changing how we felt in our bodies, what we were willing to tolerate in our work, and also in our lives. So today, my guests are Teah Iosebashvilli, and I totally butchered that. Teah, say it for me, please.
Iosebashvilli.
Thank you. As many times as you say it,
You
I'm not
did
going to get
good.
it
You
right.
did good. It takes about like 5 years
Teah
to really get used to it.
Iosebashvilli. Someday I will
You
get it by
got
the
it.
time we hit our 5 year
You got it.
anniversary.
There
And
you go.
Aleena Abrahamian. Did I get that one right? See,
Perfect.
practice makes perfect. Our conversation today is about what shifted and what became clearer for each of us. And also how redefining success at this stage of our lives led us to build work that actually supports us and helps us. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about these two amazing women. Teah is a fractional marketing strategist who helps professional service firms and companies, really of all sizes, elevate their brand, generate demand, and drive revenue. She has nearly 2 decades of leading Big Four consulting firms, sorry, marketing at Big Four consulting firms. Let me be very specific about that, and marketing at AmLaw 50 firms. And she now works to position her clients to win in competitive markets. Aleena is a growth operator and a fractional CMO who helps consumer brands build and scale new revenue engines. She's led product, marketing, and partnerships for brands like Calm, MyFitnessPal, Charlotte Tilbury, and Finch, with a career spanning startup scrappiness to $1 billion global businesses. So I'm so happy to have the three of us together. We've been planning this for a while and we've had some conversations about it and we finally made it happen. So first, let me start with that. Thank you both for being here.
Very excited to do this.
Yeah.
Me too.
So, I mean, we talked about this, Taya. I think you and I started talking about this like probably within 5 minutes of the two of us introducing ourselves and like meeting.
Yes.
So,
Yes. When
and
I
then
stopped you on LinkedIn, you're right.
was that no? You didn't stalk me on LinkedIn. Courtney
A little
introduced
bit.
us, right?
A little
But the
bit. A
stalking
little bit of
stalking on
both.
LinkedIn sounds much better. So we'll go with that origin
Okay.
story. And then Alina, you jumped right into it, so thank you. When you think back, both of you, I mean, I know how what this went for myself, but what was the first, not the first moment, but when did you start to like be noticed that something wasn't working anymore, like in your work or in your life, and it got to the point where you just couldn't ignore it anymore? And I know also, let me preface that also with another question. For me, hindsight has been 2020. Like it was happening long before I recognized it. But I'm just curious about what your experience has been. I'll pick on you
Hmm.
first, Taya.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna just I think I started being really miserable. How about that?
Sounds
So,
familiar.
yeah, at my last corporate job was at KPMG and I was there for almost 10 years. And I would say that about 2 years, year and a half or so, um, before I left there, which was last year, is when I really just wasn't, I just wasn't hitting it in terms of, wanting to be there, really getting any sort of satisfaction from my work. It just became an uphill battle and everything, and it had to do with a lot of the changes in the organization, people I was working with, but also the way that I was approaching my career and how I wanted to just show up and be recognized in terms of my contributions or how I work with teams, etc. So it was probably around a year and a half before I left the firm.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
Elena, what about
So
for
that
you?
was, yeah, yeah. But caveat to that, I've always kind of in the back of my mind was like, one day I'm going to do my own thing. One day I'm going to do my own thing. But, never really said I'm going to do it, this year kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I never said that. I never said I was going to do my own thing. I
Yeah.
didn't say I was going to do my own thing until after I had left where I was. We moved to about an hour north of New York City, and I would be looking at, 3 hours of commuting a day if I stayed in my job in the city, living where we were. And I said to my husband, if we make this move, and we both would wanted to, I said, I have to leave my job because otherwise, no drama, me. I was like, if I'm at 3 hours of commuting, I'm going to be exhausted. I'll be sick all the time. Our lives will implode. We'll get divorced. Our kids will hate us. I mean, every bad thing will
Yeah.
happen.
Terrible. So yeah, that's kind of, I would say, I can't, like you said, I can't really pinpoint, but if I've done a lot of reflecting since then. There were a lot of things that sort of made it a perfect storm of I'm not in the right place.
Yeah. How did it go for you, Alina?
I can pinpoint mine. Very opposite.
Really?
Yeah. I was working at Charlotte Tilbury. I got walking pneumonia. I was working 12, 14-hour days. And then I was sick, really sick for 3 to 4 weeks. And it was my fiance who pointed it out like at the beginning of the next year. He's like, this job is going to drive you into the ground. Like I loved what I was doing though. It was so much fun. It was really busy, but I was getting sick. And then also I didn't know at the time I'd started perimenopause and I just needed to like lay down. And I was like, something's wrong. I don't know. But like, I didn't know that that's what was happening, but I just felt it from when I got the walking menopause. It's just like
The walking pneumonia or the walking,
Pneumonia.
walking
we,
menopause.
we all have walking
Walking.
menopause.
It was walking menopause too.
I think that needs to be a new term,
Yeah.
though. We need to coin
Yeah.
that one. I have
It
walking
was.
menopause. Because
I would
honestly,
have just pushed
sometimes
through it
it's a
though.
miracle that you're going through it and you're still walking.
Honestly,
Literally.
but it's true. But it's like I would have just pushed through it because I very much find a solution, figure it out, go, 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 go. And he's like, "You're gonna run yourself into the ground." And I listened to him. Thank God he was here. But yeah, like perimenopause had started, and I was just getting so tired all the time. And I was like, I didn't know that's what was happening though. I was just like, I need to lay down.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, so then I just quit. I had some savings. I had no plan. Um, and then I very fortunately I had a good ex-colleague partner that I'd worked with when I was at Calm who had moved to my fitness pal and she's like, I need help. And I was like, okay, I can help. And I got to work from home so I could lay down and work when I needed to. So that the stars all aligned for me.
Yeah.
So,
My
but
husband
walking
told me,
menopause, you guys.
we've got to keep that one going. My husband told me years ago that he worked with this young woman. Um, I think probably it was her, first job out of college, maybe her second job out of college. And when she was tired, she would go into an empty conference room and just lay down on the floor and take a nap. And all
Oh,
of the
I've done that.
people.
I've done that. Well, in the like the wellness rooms that they have, like all the
Oh no,
big
this was just in a
offices.
conference room. Like
Oh
someone
no,
would
yeah,
walk into
no.
a conference room and she'd be on the floor taking a nap. And
No.
at the time I remember thinking like, that's horrible. That's terrible. What a
Yeah.
terrible work ethic. And now I'm like, maybe she was onto something.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. I was
I've
like,
been to the point where I'm like, I need to close my eyes because I was so exhausted.
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird.
I mean, for me, like, I didn't even realize, of course, we were making that move, and I knew that I could not do the job that I was doing, uh, the way I wanted to do it and the way it needed to be done. And add 3 hours of commuting a day, 2.5 to 3 hours
Yeah.
of commuting.
Yeah, it's too
That's
much.
cruel and unusual.
Exactly, exactly. That would have been too much for anybody. Um, but I didn't know. I remember when I stopped working, and Tay, I think I probably shared this with you when we first met. I probably shared it with both of you that like when I stopped, that I took a year off because I realized I didn't even know how to relax. I'd been going for such a long time, going,
Yeah.
going, going. And at the same time, and I didn't recognize any of the perimenopause symptoms. I always thought it was like, oh, you're having hot flashes and you fly off
No.
the handle at different times. But mine was just very different. And so I didn't
Yeah.
know what was going on.
Yeah.
And the women in my family typically go through menopause pretty late, like mid to later 50s.
Right.
So it was, I didn't even know what I didn't know. I
Exactly.
did
And
know that I
this
needed to make a
Yeah.
change though.
The symptoms also, they're all a fire dumpster, but they're so different. There's
Right.
like 100 plus symptoms and no
Yes,
one's
now I
the
have
same.
tinnitus. That's fun.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
have that. Let's compare symptoms. I have that. I have that. But you know
got
what?
that one.
I tell people, I'm like, the hot flashes are like the least of my problems.
I,
Honestly,
I
they
haven't even,
are.
I don't even get those really,
I
but I
get them
have
like
that all this
once
other
in a
stuff.
while. I mean, to your listeners, get comfy because we're just, share. But, now that I think of like, perimenopause wasn't even on my mind. Like, I am turning 50 in a couple of months. So to me, I was like, oh, menopause, 50s, 60s, whatever. Nobody talked about perimenopause. This is a new thing, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's now talking about it. Now we understand what it is. But around the pandemic, you know, probably like a year into it, I was like, what is going on? My brain is not working. My brain is just, and people at work were like, what's going on with you? And I went to various doctors. I went to a psychiatrist and he said, he diagnosed me with ADHD. And I'm like, huh, okay. And I came home and I told my husband, he's like, yeah, I could see that. And I'm like, you could have said something
Why
like
didn't you
years
tell
ago.
me?
That's Dave. That's how, yeah, I could see
that's
that.
valid.
Um, And that was like, okay, that makes sense. So let's unpack that. And coincidentally, perimenopause and ADHD have a correlation of like it really showing up, and I'm not saying I had ADHD because of perimenopause. I've always had it now that I think about it, but it really came to the forefront where
Mhm.
before I powered through it and did other things. But, it was first it was ADHD. Then it was fatigue. Then it was pain. Then it was like one thing after another. And I would do the HRT and I would do all the things, and it was still not helping. And but the problem with that is that stress aggravates it so much. So
Yeah.
while I'm trying to work and push through it, I'm working from home and I'm working around the clock kind of thing, my body just was like, what, not having it, frankly.
Yeah.
And they say what said the book is body keeps the score or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's really true. I got to the point where I was so sick and I was so stressed out that I had to take sick leave because I couldn't do it. Like I literally couldn't do it. Um, and that was like a year and a half ago. I took time off and then I got a call from one of the marketing leads while I was on maternity sick leave. No, I don't have one. While I was on sick leave, that I there was a riff and I was part of the riff. So it
You're
was
like,
like,
thank God.
thanks, thank you for killing yourself, and also goodbye.
Yeah.
So, that sort of like really honestly forced me to, of course, I was like, oh no, I have to do something about this. But similar to Aleena's, my husband's like, you need to stop. You need to take care of yourself. So I took a beat. I took some time to really unpack what that all means, figure out what's going on with my health. I'm still figuring it out and trying to adjust, but now to Alina's point, I'm not pushing myself where I don't need to push, right? I know how to balance, I know how to say no, I know how to, if I need rest, I'm gonna take rest. If I'm like, I also have fibromyalgia, so that's a new diagnosis. So when I'm like, okay, if I keep pushing, I'm gonna have a flare up, and then there's no point to pushing because then I'm really gonna be out of commission. But it was sort of like the universe, whoever was like, that's enough. It's enough. You need to
Yeah.
stop. Um,
I'm not good. I'm still not good at not pushing and giving myself enough rest when I need it. Because I still have that little voice inside me saying, you should be at work. You should be doing this.
mhm.
You should be sitting at your desk. You should be working hard. You should be doing more. And I hear that voice, like that voice operates really loudly in me.
Yeah, yes, because we're all perfectionists on this call, let's get real. But I have an amazing therapist who powers me through all these. And, I worked out why and how. And yeah, you kind of really have to recondition your brain. And you could be amazing at what you do. And she keeps telling me, you have the knowledge, you have the expertise. It's not going to go anywhere. Just, you know, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. It's still going to be there. Just take care of yourself. Because if you're not going to take care of yourself, you're not going to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of what's been helping me as my therapist. My husband is very kind of like, don't push yourself, which I wasn't used to for the 40 plus years of my life, 48. I wasn't used to that. So
Yeah.
I'm rewiring my brain.
Yes. Yes.
That's the
Exactly.
thing. You can still be ambitious. Like I'm still a hustler and I'm still ambitious and I still want to get after it. But if I need to take a couple extra hours in the morning because I didn't sleep well because of whatever, I will do that and I'll make up for that time if it needs to be done. But I don't feel bad or guilty about it. That little voice that you've got in your head, I don't know, it disappeared at some point. I don't know when,
Oh,
but just
that's so great.
yeah, it's wonderful. But I still hustle and I still get the job done and work really hard. But I also take more time for myself because yeah, there's just no point to burn yourself out, especially when your health is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Um, you've
Yeah, I
got
always
nothing
say I
if
don't
you
have
don't have
time. I
good
don't have
health.
time to be sick. I don't have time to get sick. And then every once in a
Right.
while, I push myself hard enough that I
Yeah.
do. And then my body's like, okay, you weren't taking the little signals. I'm going to give you a big one, and you're going to be laid out for 3 days in a row. And that's
You're
when I
right.
start binging Heated Rivalry, which of course we were going to get around to at some point anyway. But
Absolutely. Actually I binged it. Oh God, when was it? A friend of mine kept
Alina's
like
like, oh
telling
my
me, you
God, will you
have to
guys
watch
stop
it. You
talking
have to
about this
watch it.
show?
Yeah. I binged it like in one weekend, just like laying around being cold and miserable in Michigan. I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not going outside. I'm just gonna sit there and watch Heated Rivalry all weekend. And that was my self-care
I
that
like
weekend.
that.
That
That's
was
good self-care.
self-care. Yeah.
That is good self-care. So then I'm curious for both of you, like, do you think that for you, do you think that being at this time of your life, all of these changes, all of these realizations, do you feel like you got more clarity or maybe like just less patience for pretending that it was all okay? Or both?
Yes.
All the above.
All of the above.
Yes. Um,
Yeah,
I'll
both.
go
Both.
for it. Yeah.
It's the clarity again, it's the health. It's like I would push through no matter what, no matter how sick I was. I would be in bed working, whereas now I'll take the time to recover so I can recover faster because it's just stupid. I don't know
Yeah.
what I was saying before. Um, and then it's also less patience. I have less tolerance for BS and yeah, I
Yeah.
want to do good work hard, but I'm less tolerant for yeah, BS. That's the
Yeah.
nicest way to
I,
put it.
I, people ask me like, how do you like being out on your own? And my first gut response is, I absolutely love it because I feel responsible for myself, but I'm not being told how and why and by who and how much. Obviously, it's very hard to be on your own, as you all know. You have to have a book of business. Where's your next client coming from? Health insurance, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that I don't have to push somebody else's agenda, right? Not the client. The client, obviously, we want to make sure the client's successful, but there's just an organization and
Oh, she froze for a second.
your expertise, your brain. Um, and that makes such a difference in, I don't need, yes, patience. I don't have a lot of it. I never did. But also, it's sort of like, this is what I bring to the table. This is why you hired me. If we disagree on that, we don't have to work together, right? So I don't have to kind of have the feedback. And like Aleena, when I was actually talking to Aleena, when I was thinking of, starting my own thing, finally, she kind of said, when you work with a client and, you tell them how it kind of as an expert, like this is how it should be. If they don't agree with you, fine, you move on, right? You don't have that kind of freedom when you work for somebody. You definitely have
Yeah.
that freedom when you work for yourself. And that sort of speaks to you don't have to be patient with people because it sort of like works itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. And Aleena, you've been working for still like a number of different brands, but on your own terms.
Yeah, I basically come in and help with whatever it is they need. I give plans, ideas, suggestions. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it a long time. I make a lot of money for a lot of clients, and they either take the suggestions or they tweak it and you work collaboratively, or they don't want to do it at all and you change directions and that's fine. And I don't know, it's just a different mentality. It's very flexible and you have to be very fluid. If you're very rigid, this is not being fractional is not for you.
Yeah.
You have to just roll with the punches, which I enjoy. And I like the change and it keeps me on my toes. I really like change, whereas a lot of people don't like change. Um, so yeah, so then I'm also constantly learning and it's not as rigid as what I would say maybe being
Yeah. Yeah. I
full-time
get that.
somewhere.
I get that.
Um,
I think I grew into that in my time. It was probably like now I've been running my business now for 7 years, and I was probably halfway in at the halfway point when all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I still didn't. It took me 3+ years to even claim that, and then I was like, no, this is actually this is what I'm supposed to be doing at this point of my life. I don't, it's not one of those things. I didn't feel like, oh, I should have done it sooner. I should have done it here. I should have done it there. I feel like it really happened for me at exactly the right point of my life. And that tolerance for working on someone else's schedule, it brought to the forefront for me any issue that I still needed to work out in my own, like leftover, like childhood issues, other things, all of this stuff that work always brings up to the
Yeah.
forefront. It brought all of that to the forefront for me, and I've been able to work through it. So I'm like, this happened at exactly the right time for me. I
Yeah.
knew, yeah, and I started my business as my 50th birthday present to myself. And I remember saying when I turned 50, I was like, literally that day, I felt like a switch flipped. And all of a sudden, it was that sudden. All of a sudden, things that I cared about a lot, I didn't care about anymore. And things that I was afraid of, I was no longer afraid of. It was, very, very freeing. Um, and I think that working like this now has also changed the way I define success for me. Did it do the
Yeah.
same thing for you guys?
Beans.
so I mean, yes. So for me, success is always again though, working up the ladder to your podcast is like, what's the next title? What's the next pay rise?
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. And now I'm like, am I healthy?
Yeah.
And then and then is it am I doing a good job? Am I achieving? Am I overachieving against like the targets that I've set for my current job? But the success has changed. It's definitely shifted. You want to be happy and healthy and also doing good work because I think for Tay and myself, like a lot of our identification comes through our work. That's just yeah, work
Same.
is
Yeah.
integral to who I am, and I think the same for Taya. But and so with that, then it's like, oh, the success has changed. But with that, like I've already achieved so much. I want to be able to have fun and also achieve.
Yeah.
It just looks a little different now, which is fine. It's
Yeah.
great.
I mean, I took time off, right? Like it sounds like all of us took a little bit of a beat. And
Mhm.
I did take time off. And like last spring, I set up my business. I kind of did a couple of things. And then I was like, you know what I want to do? And, I live in Michigan. So after winter, you're like, oh my God, like warm air. I gardened for like a few months and I literally played in dirt. And they say, dirt has like, I think, is it serotonin, something? Anyway, if you put your hands in dirt, and I gardened, you know what I mean? Because that's what I needed to do. I
Yeah.
needed to take a beat. I needed to figure it out. And I didn't think about, I mean, like I did a little thing here and a little thing there, but I wasn't like full throttle, right? And after a while, it was all great and dandy, but I was sitting there and I'm like, I am bored because it's not that I can't find, like, I can have a full day of doing things besides work. It's not that. It's not that I'm sitting there, I mean, I have binged Cheeto rivalry over the weekend, but, um, I could keep myself busy, but I'm bored because I'm not using my brain. And I actually enjoy what I do. It's, especially when you do it on your own, you get so much more creative about it.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
become scrappy. you're an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself, you're trying to get your clients to get that to that next level. And I was craving that because, yes, it is part of my identity. My career of, 22 decades, 20 years, it does become part of your identity. And for me, in a good way, in a positive way. And I missed that. I missed using my brain for something. I'm like, how do people not? Right? So it's a plus, but now I'm very aware of how that also impacts my health and what do I need to do to be balanced.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to. I mean, there are plenty of days now, and I've gotten so much better about it. But there are plenty, and when you work for yourself, the work is not just the client work. The work is also the running of the business work and all of those
Oh
things.
yeah.
But that I
Oh,
really like. Like, I think that all of that is what energizes me. Um,
You like doing taxes?
I
Sorry.
have
no.
I like that my accountant does my taxes.
Yeah.
I have an
I mean,
accountant. It's still, it's the worst. It's the worst.
my
I still.
Sorry.
expenses are a bane of my existence, and they
Oh
always
my
have been.
God.
Like every organization, I would get hate mail about how my time is, late, my expenses are late, whatever. And my husband's like, "We got to get everything to the accountant." I'm like, "Oh."
Sorry.
I'm such
Expenses.
a geek. I love spending. I love like putting together my budget and then I look at it probably, I look at my budget and my spend and I'm mapping everything out, but that's me. That's what brings me
Yeah.
joy. So,
Yeah. No, if I could outsource and I'm sure I can outsource my expenses eventually, but I'm not gonna right now.
yeah,
That's my like Achilles heel, but it's the least of my if that's like
for
I'm okay
sure.
with that.
For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, for me now, success is it's as much about like the fact that maybe I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done this week, but my mom needed me and I am her caregiver, so I had to, so I was able to take a day off and go take care of things for my mom and have lunch with her and spend some time with her. And I was able to drive my daughter to an appointment and have that time with her, as a teenager, that time is, to me
Yeah.
that's all successful and it's just getting a new client and having a great first kickoff meeting with a new client is just as energizing and a signal of success as it is for me to be able to say, you know what, it's 4 o'clock and I'm really, really tired today. And so I think I'm just
Yeah.
going to stop and give myself a break. That's something that I like, even a year ago, I probably was less likely to do. Now I'm more likely to do that. So,
I mean, the 9 to 5 is not set for us, right? If you
no,
think,
no, because a lot of times I'll wake up early on a Saturday morning and I'm
yeah,
like, just in it.
yeah. But I mean, obviously, when clients need to talk to you in a reasonable time,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. But you can work whenever you want, wherever you want, like
Yes.
you can pick up your laptop and, when kids are out of the house, eventually, maybe my husband's like, we should go live in Europe for winter. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do those hours.
It's not that
But,
bad.
But then do you feel
well,
like but then do you put boundaries on it? Like Aleena, how do you put, if you're on and working all, if you can work all the time, how do you put boundaries around it?
I don't know. Oh, that's a hard question. I do what the work needs to get done. Like if I need to work longer one day because the work needs to get done, I do what needs to get done for that day. So some days I'll be up working at 6:30 in the morning and then I'll take 2 hours to run an errand and go work out. And then I'll have calls all afternoon, but then I'm off by 4:30 and then I'm done for the day. Like it just, I don't know. And then other days I work 9 to 5 and then it really depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. The work level dictates. I think, more than me stopping. Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
won't work weekends. I generally won't work weekends now. That's new for me. I used to work all the time. So that's a win.
Yeah. What about for you, Taya? I mean, if
what
you
was the
can,
question? I'm sorry.
like you said, if you
What was the
can,
question?
yeah, if you can work all the time, if you can work from anywhere, how do you put boundaries around it then?
Honestly, I'm very sort of aware of how much I want to, like, as a fractional person, I've set myself out to not work full time. Like, I will not take on anything that will require me to work full time. And that is a decision I made consciously because of my health, because of what I need right now in my life. So to me, fractional is me, like, I have projects, I have clients, I have, certain amount of hours they hire me for, and I'm very deliberate about how what that looks like. And obviously it's not like, set in stone. There's going to be a week where I work more, there's going to be a week where I work less, but I'm very much not doing this to be a full-time worker. I just don't want to go back to 40, 50, 60 hour weeks. I can't. I really
Yeah.
honestly I can't for my health. Having fibromyalgia, like I even if I wanted to, which I do not, I couldn't go back to like a company and work for a company. Because every morning I wake up and it's like, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
How
What
much do I have
adjustments
to
do I need
push?
to
And
make today?
exactly, exactly. And I know I have all these things to do. So like, how do I do them without, compromising my health? So for me, it's very different. I've set those parameters for myself and I'm trying to do my best to kind of stay in that lane.
Yeah. How's it been with your families? Like, both, and when, let me be more specific here. I'm just curious. How has it been when you are making changes in your life into your work? What was the reaction of like your parents' generation? Because mine was very interesting.
My parents don't know what I do, so no
Same.
difference
How do
whatsoever.
they think?
So,
That's the best answer ever.
It's true.
accurate.
Yeah, my dad, I mean, well, yeah, he knows I do marketing. He doesn't really understand the concept of that. They're he's a doctor, very retired, but yeah, my mom passed when I was in my 20s. He remarried. So I kind of grew up with doctors, like even my stepmom is a doctor. So, corporate marketing, all that stuff is not what they understand. So I do marketing. And when I said, I'm not working at this place anymore, I didn't give him a lot of details. And he's like, what are you doing now? And I'm like, I'm consulting. About what? Marketing. Okay. That was it. That was the conversation. But
Oh my God.
to be fair, my dad, my family moved here from the former Soviet Union and my parents became entrepreneurs. So to him, that's like, oh, you're working for yourself. Great. Like he understands that
Yeah.
sort of, pivot.
Erika, you should start the podcast with people's parents on the podcast and do a little pop quiz.
God.
3 questions of like, what do your
That
kids
would be hysterical. I mean, before I
just to
was
see what the
married,
answers are. I
before I
think
was
it'd be pretty
married,
funny.
I think my mother would like she had some of my business cards, and before I got married, she would just like hand them out to people, and she gave some to one of my aunts, and my aunt gave my business card to some couple who she met, whose son lived in DC at the same time, and she said, "Oh, you're going to get a call from this guy." And I was just like, "I'm sorry, what?"
For a
It's
date
okay.
or
He's
for work?
Jewish. It's fine.
Oh,
He's Jewish. And I'm
Oh,
like,
he's Jewish. Okay, that's okay.
and yeah, I think, but my family were not, I do not come from a family of, well, I was going to say, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My father's family owned a car dealership. So I think that was probably more entrepreneurial. Um, but it was still a steady income. Like nobody was just in this new
right.
business on their own. I don't know that anybody would have if somebody said, "Oh, are you an entrepreneur?" I don't know that anybody would have said yes. And I grew up for the most part with my mother and my stepfather. So I was, and they both had very corporate jobs, very stable, paycheck, health insurance, all of that. And even when I was the head of, I was worked my way up to be the head of the marketing department into two different law firms. And then when I went to my last in-house position, when I moved over to Sidley, I was the number two. And I remember my mom kept saying to me, like, well, you're gonna you're gonna leave there and like, be the head of the department again. And I was like, why would I? I was like, no, I love not being in the hot seat. This is fantastic. And then when I started my business, for her, it's very much like, oh, did you get more clients? Did you get more clients? Did you get more clients? What are you doing to get more clients? I'm like, I'm doing all of the things that I need to do. It's
Jeez.
okay. I know. It's very like, okay, stop asking me. Anytime I get a client, I promise I will tell you. So,
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
but I
Very
realized
Jewish
like
mom.
that I did for me. My business was all about like that was something that I did for me,
Yeah.
even if they didn't understand it. Uh,
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not worried about my parents and what they
yeah.
I'm
think at
surprised
this
you didn't
point in
hold
my life.
you, especially and ask for your annual budget and KPIs and then have a review with
If
you.
my mom
Yeah.
ever asked me, so my mom, I think it was several months ago, she called me and she said, I wanted to ask you something about work because I was watching the news and it's something very important. And I want to make sure that you know about it because it sounds like it's going to be very important for your work. And I said, okay, what is it, mom? And she goes, do you know what the AI is? She
Yeah.
said,
Oh, that's
do you
AI.
know what
Okay,
the
I'm gonna start
AI
calling
is?
it that.
She
Yeah.
said, well, do you work with the AI? I said, yes, I work with the AI.
that's cute.
The AI.
Can I just
It
say
was very
AI?
cute.
I started using it 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, a long time ago, I feel now. When I started, I finished menopause now. But I was in it then. I started young. I was 39 when I started, and AI came out, and I started using it when I was 40. And it really helped. Like it helped me with my brain fog. I just like no jokes. Like when I was having literal brain farts, I'd be like, and it would help.
I know.
Help like
Really?
Yeah.
trigger trigger the things. Yeah, AI was a huge help because it helped me be also more efficient
Yeah.
uh while I needed to be laying down working on occasion. So
Oh yeah.
I don't also
It
want to I want
remembers things I don't. And
that too. You
Every
can go back and
everyone
look at
remembers
stuff.
things that I don't.
No,
well,
but it's really helpful if you're going through menopause and you're struggling with like brain fog, which is
right,
a
right.
real thing. I also just don't, I want to make sure that anyone who is listening to this doesn't think that everything is like dire when you hit perimenopause and menopause. We can still perform very well and
Yes.
hit our
You
goals,
can. Yeah.
ambitious, all those things. But you are also, as a woman, overcoming a certain number of health struggles that frankly no man will ever have to deal with. And again, it shows up in lots of shapes and forms and symptoms and whatnot. And for the most part, it can, on some days, it's awful and just really crap.
And
But
other days it's fascinating also. I mean,
other days you're absolutely fine. That's the thing you
yeah.
never know. Like it's being on a roller coaster. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
Jesus, take the
My
wheel.
my theory, I remember my so in my like I literally just went I am now officially as of December of last year officially in menopause. At that point
See?
still 56. So way later than
Yeah.
yeah, but like on target with the way, with the rest of the other women in my family for the
It's
most
I
part.
started I started young, 39. You're on the older end of the scale. Teah,
Yeah,
you're right in the middle.
you're right in the
I
middle.
mean, I think like I'm still like on the younger because so I'm gonna be 50 in a couple of months and I'm now in postmenopause. So like menopause is that one day or
Yes,
whatever, that
exactly.
little like
I went out to
year.
I was
It's
out at brunch. I
like
marked it with my girlfriends.
yay, and then after my doctor tells me it's like now you're postmenopausal. But the fun doesn't end.
Yeah. It was like,
You
does
know?
Yeah.
that mean that I'm okay now? Like it's all over?
No,
No.
no, no. And
No,
now you have to worry about
it took a year and a half to get like my hormones back to normal. And now I've finally got energy. My energy is back to where I would say it was 6 years ago. And
Oh,
like
really? Oh,
I feel
good. Okay.
I feel myself now, finally.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so glad you told me that because
There.
I've been
But you need to check. That's the other thing. The doctor, I don't know about, I'm not in the US though, in the UK, the doctors don't tell you to check your blood, so you don't know what your three core levels are at, your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And
Yeah.
if
they
any
check,
of them
yeah.
are whack, they don't do it often enough here. And so I was still really tired. And I was like, why am I not like feeling more energized? I should be energized. And my body wasn't absorbing the certain HRT that I was given. Um, so then they had to try me on a different type and then take more bloods and then try a different type. And so I think being able to look at your bloods more frequently can help you get to the answers quicker and get onto an HRT system for you where your
Yeah.
levels and then you'll have the energy. That's the thing. I don't know. It was my energy. It
That's been an issue for me. Like
kicked my
from
butt.
one day to the
But
next, unpredictable.
so Anyway,
Yeah,
getting
I
your
mean,
HRT levels checked frequently, I
yeah.
think is important, and no one talks about that.
Yeah.
My doctor, well, I go to an HRT specialist.
Lucky.
So there's that. And every 3 to 4 months, I go in and we talk, and if she needs to check, she checks. Um, I mean, for me, it's a little bit different because once the HRT was all like, we did the blood test and all the, she's like, everything's normal, but I was still not feeling well. So I had to go, and she recommended I go to a rheumatologist, thinking that I had something else. But turns out I have fibromyalgia, which is brain fog, fatigue, chronic pain, blah, blah, blah. So for me, it's like I rolled into this other thing that I now will
You're
forever
such an
have.
overachiever, you know? Gotta stop.
I am a lifelong sufferer.
Oh, but you do it with style.
Thank you. But yeah, and again, that's why I sort of adjusted my life to not be a full-time person. It's like I just can't, right? And coming to terms with that and being okay with it and saying like, and I should say, I'm very lucky. I am very privileged to be able to say that I can do that. Like I have a spouse who can support me to a certain extent. I can earn a certain amount of money. There are people out there that cannot do that and they have to work full-time
Yeah.
jobs and suffer. But for me, earlier to my point, setting those parameters for myself and just saying, no, it's hard. It's hard mentally. It's so hard. Like it's so hard because like to your point earlier, am I being lazy? Am I not doing enough? Blah, 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 blah. It's hard. But, on the other side of it, I want to show up for my friends. I want to show up for my family. I want to do things. I want to like not just work, but like forget work. I want to go, and travel and, see things and show up to dinner. And sometimes okay, I have to work a little bit less because I want to go do stuff for
Yeah.
my,
I want to live.
with my, yeah, exactly. So it becomes like a balance that I have to constantly think about.
Yeah. And that was the
Which
same, that was the
fine.
same at any point of our lives, you know?
Well, it should have been.
Yes, that's true.
It should have been, but yeah.
But you also had a lot more energy in your 20s and 30s, so you
Yeah.
could burn the candle at both ends. It's different. I don't know.
Yeah,
You age and things just it changes. It's different.
Yeah.
very
And
much.
especially
Very much so.
when in your mind, when in your like emotionally, I was talking to a dear friend of mine. Her birthday is the day after mine. So we were talking on her birthday or texting or something like that. And I said, "This is so weird. How can we be, like turning 56 and 57?" I was like, "I feel like we're, 21 and 22 except in all of my joints." That's where I feel different. And she was like, "Yeah." She said, "If not for the joints, I would feel exactly the same."
Yeah. Honestly, I don't want to be in my 20s or 30s. Like
Oh,
I did my thing,
yeah.
I'm happy that I was there. Um, I still remember my 40th birthday that I threw myself. Alina was there. It feels like it wasn't that long ago. Um, but it's sort of like, I had my 40s. Now I'm curious what my 50s are going to look like. And it's sort of
Yeah.
like, I don't regret not being younger. Did I wish I had more energy and wasn't sick? My God, yes. But I also wasn't as kind to myself and I wasn't as balanced.
Hmm.
There were things, that I should have probably been doing that I wasn't doing. So I sort of like, kind of like, oh, you know what? Time and place. And
Yeah.
you live and
That
learn.
that's the other thing that you just said, being kind to yourself. We weren't taught that. Like we were taught to get up, to work, to climb the ladder,
Push
to get
through.
to work,
Push,
to
push,
work.
push.
Yeah, you just deal with it. You just absolutely deal
Yeah.
with it. There was no softness around it. The way that I was talked to at work in my 20s in a big corporate firm, like that stuff would not fly. Like you just had to like suck it up and get on with it.
I mean, the amount of times I showed up to work like sick, can't talk, could barely breathe, and I'm sitting there spreading my germs and like pushing through,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I remember
Things have
early on
changed.
in my career, I had a partner who was known to get angry and people just put up with it. This was in the like early mid 90s. Threw a stapler at me. It hit the wall. He didn't hit me, but he threw a stapler at me. And I remember going to my boss and like she went and told HR, but she was just like, Yeah, they were like, yeah, he's known for
Yeah.
that.
I've
And
worked
by
with
the
people
way,
like that. I have.
this poor guy died of a stroke within like the next 10 years.
Well,
Not an old
maybe
Well,
he
man.
should maybe he should be trained staplers. Just saying.
Yeah. Or I don't know, they didn't have rage rooms then. He should have gone to one of those and like
They have
taken it
rage
all out
rooms.
there.
Oh boy.
So, but I mean, for me, I feel like I remember coming to this realization a while ago, and I haven't thought about it for a while, but our conversation of today reminded me of it. That I went at my best times. I can feel like this whole process is really fascinating because I felt like in my body that as my body was going through this change to say, okay, you no longer need to make babies. So now we're going to take all of that energy and put it into something else. And so it all goes into your intellect. So I feel like when the process is over, like that's what I'm feeling more and more of. I don't know that I would have
interesting.
been able to start a business earlier in my career because I was a totally different person. I don't, and let alone being able to start it, keep it going, see how it could grow, be creative with it, start this podcast. There's so many things that I don't think I would have done at any other time of my life except for this time of my life.
And you also need the experience. You need the knowledge, right? You
Yeah.
need to be able to not only I know how to do this and I know how this works, but also be able to have a seat at the table, right? And talk to executives and talk to people that are spending a lot of money to hire you, earn their trust. So yeah, I'm sure there are people in their 20s and 30s that hustle and start their own businesses, but
They're amazing.
in our, yeah, good for them. But in our business, right, nobody's going to hire you if you don't have a certain amount of years that you've put in, because that comes with, knowledge of things, frankly, So, um, I mean, I know a lot of fractional women who are fractional start in their like probably 40s, I would say. And that
Yeah.
probably comes with a lot of things, but it is expertise and it is sort of, where are we in our career? But I think also it is with health and, where they're in maybe in their personal lives and sort of like, I, I read this book a long time ago and it was written by a psychiatrist, and she was also a neuroscientist, and it's called The Female Brain, and it basically takes you through how the hormones affect your brain throughout your life from like inception to death. And I distinctly remember her saying after menopause, to your point, Erica, you stop giving a SHIT, right? I'm gonna swear on your podcast because it is because of the hormones, and it is because of the sort of the confidence that you have in yourself because of the experience, because of what stapler throwing and whatever, and the conversations you had to have and learning from that. But also it is because your hormones are sort of like, okay, we've spent this amount of years doing X, now we're going to do this other thing that we're going to help you sort of survive through the rest of your life.
Yeah.
What both of you have talked around but not said is that the average woman, female to start a business is between age 42 and 45
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and part of that is what you just said, Taya. It's like you have leverage, you have the network as well. So you've got the experience, you've got the network to pick up the phone and do things like your confidence shifts as well, I think.
Yes.
20s and 30s, you're proving it and you're working your way up, whatever. Whereas now I know what I know what I know works. I know I can do X, Y, Z. It's different. And then we've talked about like the lower, what's it called, tolerance for misalignment. So you tolerate less like the bad
Yeah.
leadership and bad behaviors of coworkers and politics or being overworked, all the things that we've touched on. And so I think, and then you add in the hormones and the life stages and your body's changing. Layer that in on top. Plus, I think as you're older, you do have a bit more financial stability too. So like all these things start adding up. And so then you hit your 40s and you're like, huh, I can do this on my own and life's gonna be better. So, and
Yeah.
here we all
I mean,
are.
not none of this is to put down women who are still, trying to climb
No,
the corporate
no,
ladder. Good for
no,
them.
No,
not at
no, I
all.
think that it's
Um,
yeah, that's
yeah.
still fantastic and I'm glad that they are.
Yes, someone's got to hire us. But it's sort of, not for everybody. And I see more and more fractional people, COOs I network with and people, CFOs. And I think my theory, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but as the gig economy grows, this is sort of the gig economy. I think people are adjusting how they want to live, how they want, clients now know that there's options for them besides like having a full-time person and spending the money. And I think, it's sort of an interesting trend. And I would love to see a study about like how many people are fractional, how many companies prefer hire contractors or fractional or whatever,
Mhm.
and sort of like where that's going to go. Because I think with the pandemic too, that has shifted immensely, and I don't think it's going to go back to the normal 9 to 5. I mean, some companies are trying like go back to the office, be the 9 to 5 to early 8 to 10 or whatever. But there's this really large component of people that are choosing not to do that anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Fractionals, fractionals can be huge. Apparently, around 30% of like mid-sized companies will have fractional execs by 2027, I think.
So a few
So
months from
next
now.
year. Yeah,
Yeah. So the
exactly.
next year, by next year, oh my God, we're at 26. Ah. It's the fractional piece is like that wasn't even a title a few years ago, 3, 4 years ago
Yes.
when I started this. I think I had interim. But I think businesses overall, I'd read another stat, I think it's 7 or 8% of businesses all hire fractional marketing execs now. Like, so as
Good for
businesses
us.
change and evolve, yeah, great.
So that I have a closing question for each of you because we were talking about like, how we've come along over these last, 15, 20 years. If the version of you from 10 or 15 years ago could see your life now, your work, your boundaries, your energy level, how you use it, how you prioritize using your energy, what do you think she would be relieved to see you no longer carrying? Like you've just put that aside so she knows, like, oh, thank goodness, 10 to 15 years, that will not be something I'm dealing with. Oh, can you
Well,
say it without cursing? And if not, then don't.
kidding.
Mm,
Um, hmm.
that's a tricky question.
I don't, I've had so many changes in my life. So many. I've lived in many various places. I mean, most of the time I lived in the Bay Area, but I've had a lot of changes and tragedies in my life. And I never, like, people put together a 5-year plan, whatever. I never plan. I sort of like, I would like to do this and I'm going to do it, but I don't, like, if you ask me where I'm going to be in 5 years, I don't know. Hopefully healthy and happy, right? Um, but 10 years, I mean, I remember my 40th birthday. It's just, I remember where I was then. And if you told me 10 years ago that I would be living in Michigan, parenting a 17-year-old kid, working as a fractional CMO, I would have laughed. I think I would have laughed and I would have been like, okay, well, that's interesting. Um, and to me, I would probably like, hey, if I'm happy, great. And that's probably what my 40-year-old self would say.
I love that. What about you, Alina?
I don't know if I've got a good answer for you on this one.
Do you have a bad answer?
Like my younger self.
I mean, think
Mm,
about where you were 10 years ago.
Or even 15 years ago?
Yeah.
nope, I don't know. Nope, I've got nothing. I've got nothing
Can
for
you
you.
remember that far back? Do you remember?
Yes.
Let's start
I
with that.
can. I can.
I can remember that far back when I was working again, 12 to 14-hour days. I don't know. I've always liked working hard,
Yeah.
but that hasn't
But
changed.
look at
I
but
still
look at
like
how
working
yeah,
hard.
but look at how much of it but you've changed the way you work hard.
It's true. But a lot of it, thank you, AI, is making me work smarter and
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
But sorry, that was a real rubbish way to end.
Well, I have my answer, so we're not at the end quite yet. But I
Your
think,
turn.
I mean, when I think like even 10 years ago, I hadn't started my business. I was still working, although I had come to the conclusion that I needed to leave because we knew that we were going to be moving. Although, if I'm really like 10 years ago, I was exhausted. Like I was wiped. And I didn't know that I was going to be able to stop working. I didn't know we were going to be able to leave the city and move someplace else that, would make it even possible for me and sell our place in Manhattan, which made it possible for me to stop working and to take a break, and to get my health back and everything like that. So I think that, uh, probably aside from being, I would hope pleasantly shocked and surprised at the business that I've built, that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, um, I would think that myself back then would be happy to see how much I've put down around what other people think and pleasing other people and, uh, being a good girl, like, doing all of those things I like to think that the woman that I was then would look at who I am now and be like, oh, she grew up really nicely. She's a really good grown woman now. That's what I'm going to be. And I think that's been like that's been my greatest marker of success, is that there have been so many times when I still felt in my work that I would feel like the teenage Erica come up, or like or sometimes the out of control child Erica. That's always fun. But now I feel like much more often than not, it's the, I'm fully in the adult Erica, and that was a
Yep.
process that took far longer. It probably, if it started when I was in my 20s, it really has not finished until I'm well into my 50s.
But isn't
It,
that
it,
life? It's going on a journey and it's evolving and bettering yourself and learning, and it's
Yeah.
not here, is it?
I mean, we'll do this again in 10 years. And then
Do we have to wait that long? Can't we just repeat it again in
No,
like
I'm
another year or
kidding. I'm
two?
totally kidding. I don't think I'll be working in 10 years, but we'll see. We shall see.
I think I will be, but I just don't know what that work will be.
Yeah,
If I
true.
am, it'll be
True.
something that I love, and I love what I'm doing now, so it'll be another way of
Yeah,
doing something that I love.
I think that's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, because then, I mean, I'll be 67. Like, I can't imagine not. I can't imagine, I
Yeah,
would
like
like
I
to
said,
still
I'd
be
probably
doing
be
this.
bored. I mean, I'd be bored.
Yeah, I can't
Friend,
imagine you not
a
doing
friend of
anything.
ours retired. Well, she took time off and she's like, I'm gonna take a year off, which lasted 6 months. But again, it's like you need the stimulation. Like I think all of it, I think
Yeah.
any woman who's worked in a corporate environment who needs that mental stimulation needs to be doing something that is, yeah, you've got your family and your responsibilities and your fun and the things you like to do as your hobbies, but then there's also that mental stimulation that comes from work or achieving something in an in another outlet. And so it's making sure you keep your mind ticking over as
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
as you get
Yeah.
older.
I guess I could never be a kept woman.
You could try, give it a
I,
try. Talk to your husband about it, see what he thinks.
I don't, no, I don't think so.
There's
I'm good.
always time, Taya, there's always
Uh,
time.
in, in 10 years from now, Teah's going to start breeding Vishlas. I see it now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't think I could ever
Well,
replace Bateman.
no, no.
You're breeding them. You're not keeping all the puppies.
Oh, you kidding me?
Yeah. I'd want to keep all
No.
of them. I don't know.
Exactly.
No.
Don't let me near puppies right now.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? One thing that I'm taking away from this conversation is, for us, how much clarity came from paying attention to what didn't fit anymore. Whether that was like in our work, what was going on with our health, the pace that we were trying to keep. And I think for many women, especially in this stage of life, that it's not, the change that we're going for isn't about chasing something new as much as it maybe is about releasing stuff that drained us and giving ourselves the permission to choose something different. So I like that version of the story, so I'm going to stick with that. Okay.
Great.
Oh
Super.
wait, Taya, where'd you go? There she is.
You got
Sorry.
cash.
Sorry about that.
But
Um,
thank you. I mean, I'm so glad that we did this. Thank you both so much. I do hope that we can continue the conversation, whether we record it or not. I love this conversation that the three of us are able to have.
I love podcasting. This is great.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank
Thank you.
you.
I hope someone listening has found it helpful to know
yeah.
that there's lots of ways that this takes form and shape in both
Yes.
your health and work. And
Yep.
yeah, there are different paths forward as well. So
Yeah, yeah. There's just like there are many different paths for your work. There are different ways that you go through this stage of life and different things that come
Yeah.
up, and everybody's path through it is different.
As
But
you
but
know,
we can
one
all
thing that,
support each other. The one thing that is not different is that we can all support each other. Is that I really like Taya, the fact that you and I started talking about menopause within 3 minutes, and that Aleena, you and I started like it was the same thing. It means
yeah,
to me that we're able to really support each other through it, no matter where we are.
yeah. I mean,
And
I have to say, my friends have been an incredible source of support. Yes, I have a husband, yes, I have family, but my friends are just an irreplaceable um, support. Alina, I've known her for over 10 years now, and many other friends. And, as we go through this, our friends go through this, I always kind of say, I'll be okay, no matter what, because I have a good support system.
yep. Great. Well, that is it for this episode of Around the Ladder. Remember, there is no one right way up, so take your detours, make your moves, keep carving your own path. And if this conversation resonated, I hope that it did remind you you're not alone in questioning what comes next. And please do share it with a friend or a colleague who is on their own unconventional journey. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.